Most of what you're spending money on at the garden center right now is something your grandmother got for free from her kitchen. Not an exaggeration, not a metaphor. The bags, the bottles, the amendment kits, a significant portion of what they contain are compounds your grandmother generated as a byproduct of daily life and returned directly to her soil without a second thought. She did not call it composting or soil science. She called it not being wasteful, and her garden fed her family through decades that had no safety net. These are not folk remedies. Every trick on this list has a real mechanism behind it. Minerals, microbiology, pH chemistry, nitrogen cycles. The science exists. What also exists is a commercial industry that profits when you do not know it. Here's the first one. Cook in water, not the food. The water you boiled the food in. When you cook vegetables, potatoes, pasta, or eggs, a portion of the minerals and nutrients in those foods leach into the water. Potassium, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium. You drain it down the sink. Your grandmother let it cool and poured it on her plants. The only rule is that it must be unsalted. Salt is toxic to soil bacteria at even moderate concentrations. Unsalted starchy cooking water fed to the base of plants gives them a dilute, readily available mineral dose that costs nothing and generates no waste. Wood ash is the second one, and this one your grandmother understood better than most modern gardeners do. Hardwood ash from clean, untreated wood is roughly 30% calcium carbonate plus potassium and trace phosphorus. It raises soil pH. It deters slugs and certain soil insects when dusted around the base of plants. A light application, roughly a quarter cup per square foot worked into the top layer of soil, is enough to shift an acidic bed toward neutral. Too much and you push the pH too high and lock out nutrients. Your grandmother did not measure it. She scattered it thin after every fire. That restraint was the technique. Banana peels decompose fast and release potassium directly into the soil. Potassium governs how plants move water and nutrients across their own cell membranes. A plant low in potassium wilts fast, produces poor fruit, and struggles with temperature stress. Buried shallow or chopped and laid on the soil surface under mulch, banana peels break down within weeks and feed whatever's growing above them. A bottle of potassium supplement at a garden center runs between $8 and $15. A banana peel does the same job in the same soil chemistry. Free. Now here's something most people get wrong about watering. Your grandmother watered in the early morning, not for convenience, because water sitting on leaves through a hot afternoon causes localized scorch and increases fungal pressure. And water applied at night encourages slugs and stays cold against root zones. Morning watering means the foliage dries fast, the soil absorbs before evaporation peaks, and roots receive water at a time when uptake is most efficient. This is not tradition, it is plant physiology, and it has been confirmed in horticultural research for over a century. Eggshells. The amount of calcium carbonate in a dried, crushed eggshell is the same compound sold as garden lime. Calcium is what plants use to build cell walls. Without enough of it, the ends of fruit rot, a condition called blossom end rot, common in tomatoes, peppers, and squash, and almost entirely caused by calcium deficiency or inconsistent watering that blocks calcium uptake. Crushed eggshells worked into the soil around those plants before planting or buried directly in the planting hole release calcium slowly as they break down. The commercial alternative, a bag of calcium carbonate at any garden center, runs between $5 and $10. A cleaned, crushed eggshell is the same compound, free. Your grandmother also knew which plants belong next to each other. This is called companion planting, and it is not superstition. It is documented ecological interaction. Basil planted near tomatoes has been shown in university extension research to deter certain aphid species and thrips through volatile compounds released from the leaves. Marigolds planted around the perimeter of a vegetable bed produce a root exudate that repels root knot nematodes, which are soil-dwelling parasites that destroy root systems. This was not something your grandmother read in a study. She learned it from her mother, who learned it from hers. The mechanism was not understood until recently. The result was always real. Here's one that sounds wrong until you think about it. Diluted urine. Human urine, diluted at roughly 1 part urine to 10 parts water, is a high nitrogen liquid fertilizer. Nitrogen in urine is primarily in the form of urea, which breaks down to ammonium in soil and is then processed by bacteria into nitrate, exactly the form plants absorb through their roots. This practice is documented across agricultural traditions on every inhabited continent. It was standard in parts of East Asia and Northern Europe until synthetic nitrogen fertilizers became commercially dominant in the mid-20th century. A bottle of liquid nitrogen fertilizer at a garden center runs between $12 and $25. The diluted alternative has been used by humans for roughly 10,000 years. Deeply buried kitchen scraps, not a compost pile, just a hole. Your grandmother dug down 8 to 12 inches, dropped in vegetable scraps, fruit cores, coffee grounds, and crushed shells, covered it, and planted directly above it the following season. The material broke down anaerobically and then aerobically as it neared the surface, producing a concentrated pocket of organic matter that plant roots found and mined for weeks. This technique has a name now, trench composting, and it produces localized soil improvement faster than surface composting in dry climates, where the top of the pile desiccates. Your grandmother had no name for it. She just did not waste anything and knew things grew better where she buried scraps. Mulch from whatever was available. Dried leaves, straw, grass clippings, wood chips from pruning. Your grandmother did not buy mulch. She used what fell or what she cut. A 2 to 3 inch layer of any organic material on the surface of the soil does the same thing regardless of source. It slows evaporation, moderates soil temperature, suppresses weed germination, and breaks down over time to feed the organisms that feed the plant. A bag of commercial mulch at a garden center runs between $5 and $8. Dry autumn leaves do the same thing. They are available for nothing in large quantities every year in most of the world. Garlic spray for pests. Crushed garlic steeped in water overnight and then diluted and strained produces a liquid that, when sprayed on plant surfaces, deters soft-bodied insects through the sulfur compounds in the allicin. It does not kill them through systemic action. It makes the plant surface unpleasant to land and feed on. It washes off in rain and must be reapplied. Your grandmother used it on roses, on brassicas, on young seedlings. Commercial insecticidal sprays that work on the same contact deterrent principle run between $10 and $20 per bottle. Garlic from the kitchen, steeped overnight, costs the garlic. Nettle tea, where stinging nettles grow wild, and they grow wild on every inhabited continent. Your grandmother cut them, submerged them in a bucket of water, weighted them down, covered the bucket loosely, and let them ferment for 1 to 2 weeks. The resultant liquid is a nitrogen and iron-rich plant feed that, when diluted, roughly 1 part nettle liquid to 10 parts water, is applied as a soil drench. Iron deficiency causes specific symptoms in plants. Pale leaves with dark green veins still visible. A commercial iron supplement for that exact condition runs between $10 and $18 per bottle. Fermented nettle liquid contains the same bioavailable iron compounds and costs nothing beyond the time to collect and steep. The last one is the oldest. Your grandmother saved seed. Not all seed, not hybrids which do not breed true, but open pollinated varieties, the tomatoes and beans and squash that had been selected over generations to perform in specific local conditions. She dried them. She stored them. She replanted them. Each generation of seed selected from the strongest performing plants of the previous year is a slow, accumulative process of adaptation to your specific soil, your specific climate, your specific pressure from pests and disease. This is how agricultural varieties became stable before the 20th century. The commercial seed industry moved toward F1 hybrids, which produce high yield but sterile or unstable second-generation seed, specifically because hybrids generate repeat annual purchase. An open-pollinated tomato variety, saved and replanted correctly, is an asset that compounds across decades. Monsanto, now part of Bayer, holds patents on specific plant varieties and has litigated against farmers for saving patented seed, including in cases where seed was found in fields through wind or equipment contamination. The legal mechanisms that protect corporate seed revenue are not hypothetical. They are documented, contested in multiple national court systems, and ongoing. Your grandmother's garden did not need a supply chain. That is not nostalgia. That is a structural fact.